All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's program, Mission to the Moon. My name is Mary, and I'm going to be your mission whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to be guiding our mission to the moon today. I'm so glad that you all get to join us. We are bringing you one of our planetarium programs to your homes and your schools right now while the California Academy of Sciences has been closed. And we are so excited that we get to do that and bring you some of our wonderful space programs to you. And I wanted to start out, before we do anything, with a question for everyone. Have you been to a planetarium before? If you're able to type into the chat box, you can put a yes or a no or a Y or an N. Y for yes, that you've been to a planetarium, and N for no, you've never been to a planetarium before. And as I ask questions throughout this whole program, I can't see you, unfortunately, but if you're able to type in the comment box, I can see those. Or if I ask a question or if we're talking about something, you are more than welcome to just talk about it out loud. You're welcome to yell at the screen at me. You're welcome to chat with someone you're with if you're watching with someone, or any of those ways that you want to, or just think about the question as well. You don't have to talk about it out loud, but I will be asking you questions throughout the whole program. So feel free to use one of those ways to answer my questions. And we're going to be exploring the moon from here on Earth, but also get ready to move around later on, because we are going to take a mission to the moon and we're going to walk around on the moon's surface. So I hope you're all ready for that. But let's get started, why don't we? Oh, and I'm going to see if folks have been to a planetarium before. Seeing some no's and some yeses. Excellent. So we got some people who have, some who haven't. Well, normally in a planetarium, this would all be over you in a dome, but it's pretty awesome that we can bring it to just your computer screen or tablet screen or whatever it is that you're using today. So let's get started. Let's start exploring the moon here. And we're going to start out somewhere pretty close by to me. We're starting out just over in Golden Gate Park in San Francisco. And, oh, I'm sorry, I've got one setting kind of weird here. Excuse me. There we go. Now we can see our Golden Gate Park a little bit better. So if you look around at the park, we can see the California Academy of Sciences right over here on the left. Over here, this dome is where the rainforest is. And we can see trees in the park and people walking around. But also we see this clear blue sky up here. And we're going to start out by just thinking about what can we look for in the sky. Let me know if there's anything you've seen in the sky before. What are some of the things you've seen? What do you see in the sky right now? I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. And there are so many different things we could look for in the sky, but I do have a few things in our planetarium on a screen here that I can show you. For instance, I live by a lot of airports, so I see a lot of planes up in the sky. You see the airplane I just put up there? I see some people have seen the sun and stars and the moon and clouds. Oh, I have a cloud right here. We can see clouds up in the sky. And sometimes we see birds flying around. You can see the birds in the sky there. And the sun is probably the first thing you noticed in our digital sky here. We can see the sun right over on the right side. But this is a safe sun to look at. You never, ever want to look at the real sun. That's really, really bad for you. But you can look at this sun, no problem. No problem at all to look at our pretend sun over here. And if you look really carefully, you may have noticed near the center of the screen here, our star of the show, so to speak. Not a star, but the moon. We can see really thin up in the sky here. So we can see the moon during the day sometimes, but it's a little bit easier to see the moon at night. So we're going to go to nighttime and see if we can see the moon a little bit better. But I need your help for this. I think that if we sing a song about stars, that'll encourage the sun to go down to set and for the stars to come out. So if you want to sing along with me at home, I'm going to sing Twinkle, Twinkle and see if we can get the stars to come out. So get ready. So I'm going to have time go forward really quickly in a second, and here we go. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Oh, it worked! Wonderful. So we got the sun to go down and set. And now that the sun is out of our way, we can see those beautiful stars twinkling up in the sky. And we can see the moon a little bit better. So you can see the moon right over here. But I do want to see the moon even better. So we can see it a little bit brighter at night, but I want to see it bigger up in our sky too. And there's a couple of tools that we might be able to use to see the moon a bit bigger. What's a tool you can use? Maybe you've used it before, you've heard of them to see the moon bigger in the sky. I'll give you a few seconds to think about it. I've seen someone say a telescope. Yeah, there's a couple of different tools we could use. Yeah, a telescope, or also if you want to use some binoculars, you can use those to see the moon a bit bigger too. So if at home, if you want to pretend that you have either binoculars, put your hands up to your face like this, or if you want to use a telescope, you can put your hands up to your face like this. So get ready with your binoculars or your telescope, and let's see if we can make the moon look a little bit bigger. All right, I've got my telescope ready. Oh, that works pretty well. So we can see the moon nice and big up in the sky now. You can see it much better. And right now, the moon has this kind of curved, kind of skinny shape. Have you ever seen the moon look like this before? I've definitely seen the moon look like this a few times. And this is what we call a crescent moon. But I'm always really interested to see what you think it looks like. What do you think this moon looks like? What kind of shape do you feel like it has? I see a lot of people have seen the moon look like this before. Awesome. We've seen our crescent moon. And I'll show you what we think this one looks. Oh, I see someone else saying it too. We think this looks like a banana up in the sky. So our crescent moon is very thin and curved like a banana. But if you were to keep watching the moon doesn't always look like this. If we waited a few more days, the moon would keep getting brighter and less of it would be covered in shadow, and we would see something like this. This is what we call a quarter moon phase. What do you think this one looks like? What shape do you think this one looks like? And I'll show you our picture we have for this one. We think this one looks a bit like a bowl, maybe a cereal bowl. See some people saying it looks like a potato or half a pizza, half a cookie. That sounds yummy. Maybe some watermelon. But again, it doesn't stay a quarter moon either. If we were to wait a few more days, it would keep getting brighter. And a few days later, we would see this moon, a gibbous moon, where it's a bit more than halfway lit up and less of it is covered in shadow. This one has kind of an odd shape. What do you think this one looks like? Maybe this one. Looks like folks are still talking about the half one. Yeah, this one has a little bit of an odd shape. Well, we had trouble thinking of what this one looked like too. So we kind of went away from our food theme with our banana and our bowl. This one we think looks a bit like maybe a football up in the sky. Oh, or an egg or a teacup, an oval, absolutely. A deflated ball, yeah. But once again, folks, if we waited a few more days, the moon would keep getting brighter and less of it would be covered in shadow. And eventually we would see a full moon. I think maybe one of the most famous moon phases. And this one probably looks like a lot of different stuff. What do you think this one looks like? What do you think it looks like? A dinner plate. Yeah, it looks like a ball. Lots of different round shaped things out there. Soccer ball. And sometimes, though, if you were to wait after the full moon, it's not just going to keep getting brighter and brighter forever. The moon would start to get darker and darker. It would get more and more covered in shadow. And depending when you look for the moon, maybe you can't see the moon. Maybe the moon isn't up yet, or it could be a new moon. When you don't see the moon at all, it's totally covered in shadow. And we can look for these different moon phases. Every month takes us about a month to see all the different moon phases. But also with our telescope and our binoculars, we can take a close-up look at the moon itself and try to look around on the moon's surface, see what we can find. So if you look carefully at the moon, you can see lots of holes, lots of craters on the moon's surface, and there's all these dark areas, what we call maria. And people, we've been looking up at the moon for a long time. Humans have been looking up at the moon for thousands of years and have been looking for different shapes, and they've come up with stories about the different shapes you see on the moon. So I'm going to give you a few seconds. Why don't you take a look around at these maria, these dark areas, see what kind of shapes you can find. There's all sorts of different shapes we can look for. Someone says they want to see people on the moon. Well, soon we're going to pretend to go on the moon ourselves. But I have some pretty cool pictures I can show you. We have some ideas of what we can see on the moon. And one of them is I always try to look for a face on the moon. So we've got our kind of concerned face because there's a spacecraft or something going off of the moon's surface there. Also, you can look for, one of my favorites is to look for the bunny rabbit on the moon. Our bunny rabbit has a radish. And we can look at different bunny rabbits too, not even just this way, but you can look at it in different ways. Maybe the rabbit's kind of on their side like this. And you don't have to only use the dark parts either. You can use the light and the dark parts to come up with different shapes and different pictures that you can see on the moon. But my all-time favorite picture or shape to look for on the moon, ever since I learned about this one, I was like, this is the coolest shape I can look for. I always try to look for the T-Rex on the moon. And this T-Rex is riding on a bicycle on the moon's surface. All right, so while this has been really fun, exploring the moon from here on Earth with our telescopes and our binoculars, I want to get even closer. I want to take a mission to the moon and walk around on the surface. So we are all going to imagine that we are astronauts, and we're going to go to the moon and walk around on the surface. But how are we going to get there? What is something we can use to get to the moon? Does anybody have any ideas? Let's see, maybe we could we take a bicycle like the T-Rex and just bike over to the moon? Could we take maybe just a car? Can I get in a car and go to the moon? Maybe a giant trampoline, an elevator. I don't know. What do you all think? Oh, I see some people saying a rocket. That's probably a good idea. That's probably the best way to get to the moon, is to take a rocket ship. So we're going to get in a rocket and we're going to blast off from Earth and go over to the moon. So I'm going to count down from 5. If you want to count along with me. So here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Blast off and make your best rocket noises. Excellent. So we have taken off in our rocket ship. We have detached from the first few stages there. And we are now in our spaceship. We are out in space and we are going to fly over to the moon. So we can see the moon there in our view, looking pretty small. And as we get closer and closer, it'll get bigger and bigger in our view. And let me tell you, we are going very fast. People have gone to the moon before. The Apollo astronauts went to the moon over 50 years ago. But when they went to the moon, it took a couple of days to get there. So we're going pretty quick. It only takes us a few seconds. And we're going to land down on the moon surface. There we go. We've got our lander over here. And this is a model of what they took to the moon. This is what the Apollo astronauts were in when they landed on the moon over 50 years ago. All right, but we're going to get up and we're going to walk around on the moon. But before we do, we need a little bit of inspiration because if you look around, does this look like the park that we saw earlier? Does this look like what it looks like outside? The moon looks pretty different. What do you notice about the moon? I'm not seeing a blue sky. Not seeing any plants or water or animals or anything. It's pretty rocky and there's not a lot here. And there's not really air there like there is here on Earth. So we would need a spacesuit to make sure that we're nice and safe and to protect us from stuff on the moon. So we're going to get up out of our seats. If you're sitting down, go ahead and get up. And we're going to put on our spacesuit. So let's take a look at our astronaut here. They've got a helmet. So make sure to put on your helmet. Oop. Let's see, we've got to make sure our suit's on, make sure it's all zipped up. They've got some gloves on. Put on your gloves. They've got some boots. So make sure we got our boots on. All right, so we've got our spacesuit. We're all ready. But what is this going to really be like? What would it feel like to walk around on the moon? Well, if we look at these astronauts, some of the Apollo astronauts, if you watch how they walk, they're almost kind of floating. They're kind of bouncing as they go around on the moon because there's very little gravity there holding you down. So it almost feels like you're underwater. Woo. And you also got to be really careful because sometimes with these big bulky suits they had on, if they dropped something or anything like that, they'd have to be really careful to not fall over. Oh, no. So you got to walk really carefully. But they're also pretty bouncy, so that's nice. Oh, all right, let's finish our first moonwalk. Excellent. Let's get back in our lander for a bit. Whew. But when the Apollo astronauts were there, they would go out onto the moon surface and do their moonwalks, maybe a few hours at a time. And they would only stay on the moon for maybe a few days, not super long, and then they would come back home. But some of you may know that we're planning to send people to the moon again. And when some of you grow up, we might have people living on the moon, maybe for months at a time, or maybe even longer. And when they go to the moon, or if any of you go to the moon, it's going to look a lot different. So would any of you want to go and live on the moon? That sounds pretty fun. And it would be pretty different from what we have here. This certainly doesn't look like my home. These houses are very round. They would be able to collapse them down really, really small, save space in your rocket ship, and then you could blow them up like balloons when you get there. So saving space is really important. And we can see our astronauts walking around, and they have some cars as well, so they can drive around on the surface. And the spacesuits are going to be a little bit different too. They've been improving the spacesuits. So I actually have a video to show you of what these new spacesuits are going to look like. So let's take a look at that.
Generation.
Excellent. So that's still a pretty large suit that she has on, but let's try walking around in this new spacesuit. So looks like she was able to move pretty easily. We can walk around like this and move our arms around and stuff, maybe bend our knees just a little bit. But we also have that big pack on the back as well, so we got to think about that. And we're going to do a quick new mission as we walk around on the moon's surface, and we're going to try and collect a sample. So go ahead and grab something in your room that can be kind of small like this that you can pick up off the ground. And this is going to be our moon rock. So I'm going to place this down, and I'm going to imagine I have on my spacesuit, and I'm going to try to pick up this rock. So here we go. Oh, I got to be really careful. I've got this big heavy thing on my back. Oh goodness. Whew, that's pretty difficult. Let's see how the real astronaut does it. Let's see how she picks up rock.
Generation. Before we do that, she's going to show.
Looks like we're having some.
Before we do that, she's going to show us how to pick up a rock, if she can handle it, and she can.
It's a heavy rock.
This is difficult to do in a spacesuit. All right. I got the rock.
Ah, excellent. So if you noticed anything different that time, let's try one more time. So we've got our moon rock on the ground. Looks like she was able to bend her knees a little bit, but you got to be really slow and careful. Oh, there we go. And we've got our moon rock, and we can bring it over to the computer here. Excellent. Ah, that looks like a lot of fun, walking around on the surface of the moon, trying to find moon rocks. Also a lot of work. So while this has all been fun, as visiting the moon, walking around on the surface of the moon, I'm still a pretty big fan of Earth. So why don't we get back in our spaceship, and we're going to head on home. And in a minute, we'll start to see the Earth show up. You can keep an eye out for the Earth while we fly over. And again, we're going really fast. Even when people go back to the moon, it's still going to take a while to get there. It's still going to take a couple of days or so. But for us, only a few seconds, maybe a minute to get back home to Earth from the moon. And after we see the Earth, let me find that Earth, where to go. Oh, there it is. So you can see the Earth looking really small in our view, just like the moon did earlier. But as we get closer and closer, it's going to look bigger and bigger. And we can see all that stuff on the Earth that the moon didn't have. We see a lot of blue and green, and we got clouds and stuff on the Earth. And we're going to land down on the Earth's surface, back over in Golden Gate Park, and take a look at the moon up in the sky once again. All right, excellent. Thank you all so much for going to the moon with me. That was a wonderful journey that we had. And the next time you see the moon up in the sky, you can think about the time that you got to go visit the moon yourself and walk around. And I want to encourage you that next time you go out, even if it's daytime, take a look around, see if you can find the moon, see what phase it's in, what shape it looks like. And we do have a couple of activities for you all after the program. If you want to check them out, we have one where you can trace things on the moon or draw things on the moon and come up with even more shapes that you see on the moon's surface. And also we have a journal, so you can keep track of what the moon looks like from night to night or day to day and see how those different shapes and phases change. But with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me today for Mission to the Moon. I hope you had fun, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. And stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll see you another time.